Welcome to the channel. This is going to be a recommendation, somewhat of a review, but a recommendation of for a property that is well, it's in two forms. It's one is a series of three books, and also a TV series that is on Apple TV. So, series one has been completed for a while, and series two is coming up on November 15th. So I thought I would take this opportunity to give my thoughts on Silo, both the TV series and the books. So notice here the IMBD rating is 8.1 out of 10. I really like this, the series and the TV series, so I would definitely recommend them. So it's dystopian sci-fi. Um, it's living people living in a silo, and I thought maybe the silo was referring to a nuclear missile silo that gets converted, but actually it's a more like a storage silo you would see on a farm, and the things being stored are us, so people. So you're seeing a few clips here of series one. Again, I would find I've really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it. It does follow fairly closely the book. There's three books. So series one follows Wool, which is the initial book, um, but it ends before the book. So Wool carries past what you see at the end of series number one. So there is some spoilers in this, but I'm going to continue. Uh, Again, it's dystopian sci-fi. It's got a good cast with Rebecca Ferguson. Common, he's just getting into acting, but he does pretty good. Tim Robbins, Harriet Walker, she's a UK actress, very good. You get this gentleman, David, and I'm going to butcher his name, Ololo. Does a really good job. I've seen him in stuff. He's in the first Reacher movie with Tom Cruise. This Fernard Kingsley, he's Ben Kingsley, and if you don't know who Ben Kingsley is, he's a very well-known English actor. Look him up. Um, but a pretty good cast. Most of the other ones are secondary characters, but all in all, they do a pretty darn good job. One of the things that interests me is this is created by Graham Yost, and he's um, a writer, producer of stuff that a lot of other properties that I really like. So when I see something that he's involved in, I usually will give it a view. So he did Justified, a TV series that I really, really like. I should do a video on it recommending it because it's really, really good. He did it From Earth to the Moon. He did the original Speed movie with Sandra Bullock and, oh geez, going on a blank. He's in John Wick. Keanu Reeves, thank you. Uh, he did the series The Americans. This is Justified. But Justified, Speed, The Pacific, From Earth to the Moon, all good properties. Slow Horses is on Apple TV now, very good. Um, Masters of the Air, which is on Apple TV, good, good, good. So the Silo, very good. I don't know anything about Commons. The Americans was people spying are embedded in America as spies for the Russians. Sneaky Pete, John Adams. So a bunch of other stuff that he's done. A lot of his stuff is really good, really high quality. So, um, yeah, if I see his name associated with a project, I'm usually gonna check it out at least. Uh, what triggered me to him is his father. His father's name was Eloy Yost, and he was kind of a local character here in Canada. You can see he was born in 1959 in Etobicoke, in Canada. But one of his parents was Elwy Yost. And Elwy, besides being an actor, he was a guy that was on TVO, which is Province of Ontario version of PBS. And he used to do like those shows where they show old movies at night. But he would show the movie, but he would also then he'd have either before the movie or after he would bring in somebody And I think sort of Turner's copied this guy, but I don't know if I can say that legitimately. But it seems to be. Anyways, they bring in somebody. He always brought in somebody, either a star if the star was still alive, or some of the secondary actors, or the producer, or the director if they were still alive, or the stuntman, whatever, and they talk about um, the movie, and it was quite good. So that's how I got onto Graham Yost. But so this is dystopian sci-fi, and you see outside here. This is a picture of what they are told the outdoors is like. Now, I again thought it was nuclear radiation. You can see here multiple silos. That's not really brought up except for at the very end of series one. Um, but they're not the only silo. In the silo, again, it's more a storage facility of people um, being experimented on. It's almost like Fallout, in that they sort of experimented to find the strongest silo that they would be the ones allowed to repopulate the earth at some point. Um, so um, that is what it is. They live in the silo. The silo's divided into levels, and the lower you go, the lower your status. It's kind of a caste system. So at the top are the sheriff's department, the IT department, the medical and farming, and then it goes down and down, down and down. The goofy part is the people at the bottom are the people that actually keep everybody alive, because they maintain the generator and the air filtration and everything else. So they're really actually the most important people, even though they're treated the poorest. And Juliet was born into her father's a doctor. That's Rebecca Ferguson's character, and because of the way her mother died under suspicious circumstances, she rejects her father, kind of blaming him, and goes down to the mechanical section, and that's where they find out that she's actually a damn good mechanic. But so yeah, it's very interesting. So the books, there's three of them: Wool, Shift, Dust. So Wool's first, Shift is second, and Dust is third. And Wool basically covers series one on Apple TV, but it actually extends past series one. So at the end of series one, you see, Juliet gets Bernard, who is Tim Robbins' character. The head of IT is kind of the evil person in it, even though he thinks he's doing the right thing. He's doing a lot of bad stuff, in that he's uh, killing people, a lot of killing people, although he thinks he's justified in doing so. So the thing about the silo is everybody stays inside. They can't go outside because nobody ever survives um, if you go outside. So the worst punishment is being sent outside. The name Wool for the book comes from the fact that there's like a big TV screen in the cafeteria and people can look at the outside. It's coming from a camera. The camera lens is near the airlock, and if you go outside, they ask you to clean the camera angle. And nobody so far has refused, except for Juliet eventually does, which shows how strong a character she is. But it's a death sentence to be sent out of the silo, and that's why it's the absolute punishment. So Juliet, Bernard, Tim Robbins, I think it's Bernard, yeah, trumps up some charges against her to get her kicked outside. So what they find out is, so this character, Martha Walker, which is gender swapped, but I don't care. But in the book, it's a man. She's a sort of mechanic that fixes old things, but she suffers from whatever the phobia is that you can't leave your house. But she has contacts in manufacturing, and they figure out that manufacturing is making two types of duct tape, and the duct tape is used to seal the joints between the gloves and the arms of the spacesuit that they use, and the legs and everything. And so the way Bernard's been killing people is he puts substandard duct tape on the seals because he does it personally. And to save Juliet, uh, Martha gets manufacturing to substitute the good duct tape for the defective one. And this is spoiler, but what's killing everybody is nanobots. So kind of you think that it's nuclear or whatever. No, it's nanobots that were released by Americans to kill off people. Um, yeah, it's interesting. You don't really learn anything in the first series about that, but you just see Bernard is he goes into a room and he sees screens and he sees a team that's monitoring the other. Um, uh, there's all kinds of cameras that nobody knows about around the silo, so they're monitoring the population. But Bernard is actually communicating with somebody else, and they don't really say. Um, so that basically, yeah, it's this gentleman here on the screen. He was a sheriff, and it sort of starts off. I think I'll show his clip. Um, but he starts off by asking to put outside, and you can't refuse to put anybody outside. If you want, this is a deputy sheriff. But if you ask to be put outside, they have to put you outside. And of course, everybody knows that's a death sentence. Well, his wife was digging into, like, there's a certain people in the silo that don't believe everything they're being told, or they think stuff's being withheld. So his wife went out, also because they weren't allowed to have a baby. Um, they have a lottery so you can have a kid, but eventually they find out that they're supposed to remove the birth control and allow people who win the lottery to have a child. Well, they did not remove his wife's birth control. This is his wife's dead body that he's looking at. So she kind of cracked and get asked to go outside, and of course she dies, and eventually he can't take it anymore, so he has to go out as well. They don't want to let him go out, but they have to. So he basically walks into a cell, locks himself in, and says, "I want to go." And this deputy doesn't want him to go because the deputy one doesn't want to take over, but they're friends, and he's trying to convince him not, to say that he didn't say that, and he'll back him up. But he tells people that he needs to leave. So um, he eventually goes out and dies, and then for some reason they decide that Juliet would make a good replacement. I think partly because she had a boyfriend that died under suspicious circumstances, and she helped the sheriff's department with investigating, even though they didn't find the real cause. Um, but that's how she got noticed, and they approach her to join. She doesn't want to, and then she kind of realizes that maybe she'll get some answers if she does, so she reluctantly accepts, even though Tim Robbins, Bernard, tries to prevent it with Common. Common's part of the judiciary, and I don't remember the judiciary in the first book. I think it's just been added to make it more interesting. Anyways, she gets the job and she starts digging around to try to find things out, and that's when Bernard decides to get rid of her and trumps up some charges and gets her banished to outside. So, again, at the end of season number 1, you see Juliet leaving, and because her friend Martha gets the tapes swapped, the duct tape swapped, she lives instead of dying like everybody else. So she's walking out, and you see that the grass changes back to the desolate area. That is because the she's looking through a viewing screen on the helmet, so everybody always saw the bleakness outside through the window in the lunchroom. But she had found a hard drive with some information on it, and you're not supposed to have hard drives. You're supposed to destroy all the old tech. She doesn't. She gets somebody who can help her look at it, and she sees these green fields. So she doesn't believe that it's all desolation outside. So when she gets thrown outside, she walks along. There's a desolation, and then suddenly the images she's seeing changes to green fields and stuff. And so she's like, aha. But she keeps going, and eventually the desolation or the green fields changes back into desolation, and this is the image that she's shown. So this is a silo, so you can see there's multiple other silos. This is supposedly Atlanta in the distance, but yeah, she determines that These are all the bodies. She's actually going to silo 17 here, and she's stepping over the bodies because um, the group that is controlling all the silos, if you get out of line, they basically open the door. What's killing people, I think, if I didn't mention before, is nanobots. So they open the doors, which allows the nanobots to come into the silos and kill everybody. So when Juliet goes to 17 next door, there's bodies all over the place, and that was because the people in Silo 1, who control all the other silos, basically tried to wipe them out. But she's able to get into Silo 17, and there are some people in Silo 17, mostly kids. But they've been there on their own for years and years because you can tell by the skulls and stuff that the bodies died quite a while ago. I think it's been like over 100 years that they've been in the silos and not knowing what's going on. But yeah, that's the interesting part. And then again, her getting the end of book number, or sorry, season number 1, she just gets out of the silo and sees this change from desolation to grass to desolation again. That's it. But in the book, she continues on. She gets into the silo. She manages to get in the airlock. She meets the kids that are there. Um, and she's starting to work things out. Unfortunately, Silo 17's in rough shape because everybody's been killed off. Nobody's been looking after it. Luckily, she's a mechanic, so she kind of restores most of the power, and she gets rounds up some of the kids. Although there's they also get attacked by some of the other kids. But she's trying to get things back in place. And now that she knows there's 2 silos, um, and she's learning more and more about what's going on. But back in her old silo 18, a war breaks out because of the fact she got kicked out and she was so popular. So Bernard and his people try to put down the rebellion. He has to because Silo 1 is watching what's going on, and if he can't, then they'll wipe out Silo 18. But anyways, there's a war going on in the silo. So yeah, that's kind of book 1. Book 2 is interesting in is it called Shift, and it Shift refers to um, in Silo 1, people are brought out of hypersleep and brought back to consciousness, and then they run Silo 1 for a certain amount of time, and then they get put back into uh, suspended animation. And this has been happening for years and years and years. And unfortunately, it's taken a bit of toll on the people. They're going a bit nutty. But Shift um, talks about it's interesting in that it tells you why. So you see how the silos were created and that there's 50 of them with Silo 1 in charge, and it's an experiment on the people inside. And um, Silo 1 has got weapons and armed drones and explosives and everything else. So if they can't open the doors to let the nanobots in to kill off Silo's population, they'll blow it up. Um, but you meet the one of the main guys that helped create the silos. He was an architect, even though he was part of. He was a senator, and it was another senator that approached him to join this project. Although he never knew that this other senator was going to release the nanobots and kill everybody on the planet, more or less. He had a wife, but he was kind of attracted to the senator's daughter, so he was sort of in a relationship, although he didn't. I don't think he was ever unfaithful. But the book talks about they wake him up. He doesn't know how much time has passed. They give him drugs so he can't remember. He can only remember how to do things. He can't remember what's happened in the past. But the daughter actually starts helping him wean off this medication, so he starts to remember. Unfortunately, he remembers he had a wife and finds out that she was in another silo. And after he was separated from her, she remarried and had a whole family, which kind of pushes him over the edge, and he kills the daughter that's been helping her, the senator's daughter that's been helping him all along. He locates his sister and uses her skills as a drone pilot to find out that there actually is grass and trees and birds out past a certain distance. So the nanobots surround the silos, but if you can get past them, everything is more or less fine. But they discover that he's not part of the program anymore, and they send soldiers after him, and so you get a whole thing where he's trying to hide and whatever. But he does contact Juliet in Silo 17 and starts telling her some of the stuff that's going on and trying to help her while he's kind of covering his own ass. So Shift is interesting there, but you do learn the history of the silos and why they did what they did, wrong as it was, and how they've been controlling the other silos in experiments and yada yada yada. So series one did not coincide with the end of Wool, so I think series two will be the end of Wool, and then I don't know what they're going to do, whether they're going to branch off into Shift or jump completely to Dust. Because Dust is the final book in the series, and in that, Juliet goes back to Silo 18. The war is over. Her side has won. She's trying to figure things out. She does realize that there's other silos. She can't really communicate to them. She has communicated to the people in Silo 1 a bit, but she figures out that down in the depths where she was used to work, there was certain sections they were not allowed to go into, and she goes down there and finds out there's a digging machine that looks like it's set to dig up to the surface. But she points it over in the direction of 17 and digs a hole between 18 and 17 so she can contact the kids she left behind because they don't have any suits, so they couldn't follow her. And just around that time that she successfully has the tunnel done and have people moving from 18 to 17 because um, they control the population in the silos. So by moving in from 18 to 17, they're gonna have more room and they can have more families and stuff like that. But anyways, that's a very short period there. Anyways, the controllers figure out what Juliet's done, and they open the door on 18 and let the nanobots in, and it kills off a huge number of people. A lot of them flee across the tunnel into 17 and then collapse the tunnel so that they will live. Um, so, anyways, that is, yeah, 18. Unfortunately, Juliet lost somebody that she was kind of growing fond of. He was actually working with Bernard, but not with Bernard, if you know what I mean. But he pretended to be with Bernard, but he gets killed. So, sort of it follows on with there, and Juliet having to deal with Silo 1, etc. But eventually she starts the digging machine in 17 that's pointed at the surface, and it digs out past the nanobots, comes to the surface, and that's kind of the end of the series. They come to the surface. So what happens from there, whether they can contact the other silos to let them know what's going on, they figure if some of the people won't believe them, they're too tied to what Silo 1's doing. But ultimately, they had to escape because Silo 1 was going to pick one of the silos to repopulate the Earth and kill everybody else. What a lovely bunch of people. So I kind of am interested to see. I may actually renew my Apple subscription just to watch this show. Um, but I'm interested to see how they carry it on because they've done a really good um, job of capturing the books. You can see here the picture of this woman holding something aloft. That's probably during the fight sequence. This is Juliet getting into Silo 17, shutting the airlock and taking her mask off. And this is start of the fight over Juliet. Lies. So 17 kind of figured out what was going on, and that's why they killed off everybody in 17. And these are just various characters in it. Again, well written, well acted, interesting story, and so far it's been really, really good. I don't know if they'll continue or how they'll map out the series on Apple TV, whether they'll follow the books or not, but I really, really enjoyed the series one on Apple TV, and I enjoyed watching or reading the book. So I would highly recommend either or. If you like write, I always find that if I read a book, my imagination is better than any Hollywood writers, so I can picture stuff in my head. But they've done a good job with this show on Apple TV. So I would, if you like reading better, buy the books. If you like watching TV better, um, then yeah, get an Apple TV subscription. So that sort of bit there was when she gets into Silent 17, she finds that there's somebody alive in 17, which she doesn't think has happened. And Bernard is starting to see that things are falling apart and is worried that he's going to get wiped out by Silo 1. So it is coming November. When's it coming in? Yeah, November 15th it's coming. So I thought I would. There's a gentleman that's in Silo 17 and won't let her in because he doesn't trust her. Thinks that she's going to kill him. But anyways, he's a bit goofy, or went a bit nuts because he's been living alone. His parents were in IT and they protected him, but they tried to fend off people wanting to leave, and his parents got killed. So he's been on his own since he was something like 12 or 13 years old. So he's a little bit on the goofy side. Anyways, that is, I recommend the Silo TV series on Apple TV Plus, and I recommend the book series by Hugh Howey. There's another book that I'm reading that is not really related to Dust, but it's in sort of the same universe. I can't remember. I can't find it here. But it's about people, again, they're way outside the zone and they're trying to survive above ground. So it's interesting. Anyways, that's it. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of if you're looking for something to stream on Apple TV Plus or want a reason to get Apple TV, this is one of the shows that I would recommend. Okay.